Welcome, angry alien gods, quarreling feudal lords, and nope, not Da Vinci this time, to episode 379 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 18th of November 2020, and featuring The Masque of Mandragora, written by Lewis Marks, and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor and Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith. I am Bill Sylvie, the Man in Black, and with me are Randy Ronson McCulloch,
BBC are a bunch of teases.
Mad Matt Winchell,
I'm drinking fruit punch.
and Thomas Firehart.
I'm just gonna have to really bang it into my skull that it's Mandragora and not Mandragora. Keep thinking.
Yeah, I caught that as it was leaving my mouth, but we called it Mandragora in the whole lead up to watching it, and then in the episode itself they pronounce it differently.
Yeah.
That figures.
Well, when you're only reading it, you can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
This is why the English language needs accents.
Oh, like that would really be great for our elementary school kids to try to learn.
It worked perfectly fine for kids in Spanish speaking schools, Spanish speaking countries.
Yeah, I know. But like but that would mean that we would have to have a better education system than we do now. As it is now, people come out of high school and they don't even know English.
Barely know English.
As it is now, people wear a mask by covering their mouth and not their nose, and think it protects the air that comes out of their breath. That sentence got away from me a little bit, but
Yes, we noticed. So, how's everybody's week been?
Not too bad. I mean, I almost thought I was coming down with something until I realized, oh no, it's just certain things I've been eating lately and my sinus is saying fuck you.
Well, for me, it was allergies were kicking in one day in particular, and I had to get more allergy pills.
Oh, no, it was pretty bad here. On Friday, Erin stayed home because she thought she had caught the virus.
Did she get her test results back?
Yes.
Yeah, they're negative.
Awesome.
She's back to work this week.
Mm.
What she apparently caught was the 48-hour flu.
Gotcha.
She's like, oh, no, it's a cold. I'm like, no, you had a fever and chills. It was the fucking flu.
Mm-hmm.
No, cold is that your sinuses are plugged up and you feel like coughing up phlegm every 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm. And flu is that plus fever and chills.
I've never had the sinus issues of fevers.
Oh, I have.
Not me. That's not our thing.
Oh, I have. But she was feeling pretty crappy there for a couple of days. We actually had to get our groceries delivered. Which I was mildly annoyed from because we had to get them from Hy-Vee. And they do this thing where they substitute if they don't have what they had. And one of the things they did with our dairy is they didn't have what we ordered, so they substituted a brand called Prairie Farms. I hate Prairie Farms.
What did they substitute?
I usually get a half gallon of chocolate milk to have on Mondays.
Mm.
It's my Monday treat. I usually get Dean's, or I guess as it's called now, True Moo. Because they use syrup for the chocolate milk, not powder. Well, the reason I don't like Prairie Farms is quality issues. Their whole milk tastes like 1% milk. And God knows what the rest of it all tastes like. Their cheese tastes like plastic. They're just not a good quality dairy.
I will say I've had issues with them too, including, in fact, picking up a package from the grocery store, getting the package home, opening it, and then realizing the entire inside is mold.
Yep.
However, I will say the one thing I will forgive them for creating, because it actually does taste good, is their bacon cheddar. It's the only group out there that actually has bacon in their cheese. I'm just like,
not
I don't
true.
wanna, but They're the only ones
true.
that have it sliced like this, baby. Around here it is.
I'm pretty sure I can get that from Car Valley.
Well, congratulations, not around here.
But, so yeah, I was a little annoyed by that because like I said, I avoid prairie farms like the plague. That and Crystal Farms because all of their cheese tastes like it comes out of a plastic processing bin.
I'm sure
But
they're not the same group.
I don't know. But either way, I'm a bit of a dairy snob. I've lived in Wisconsin for almost my entire life, and this does make me a dairy snob. Oh yes, I can tell this is a Guernsey cow from, I would say, the Eau Claire area.
What
And
is
it
this
was milk
horrible
2
flavorless
weeks ago.
mesh? Oh, it's California cheese. No wonder. Get this swirl out of here.
Yes, people who are saying this are I'm well aware California outproduces us in quantity, but
Now
Not
their
I'm
quality.
wondering
best
if
cheese is about our mid-range.
Ohio makes its own cheese.
Very little, if any.
There's
I'm-
only 3 states I eat cheese from: Wisconsin, Vermont, and upstate New York.
That's right, they do have some stuff from New York, don't they?
Yes. And mind you, I'm very picky about what I get from upstate New York, and mostly Vermont, it's only white cheddar. So anyway, so Erin's back to work now. She's feeling a lot better. But that was a scare because I was freaking out because if she has COVID, I would have COVID and I would be dead.
Yeah.
Here's the weird thing. I actually know through online content a couple, and one of them actually did get COVID, yet the other one didn't.
Yeah,
and
it
these
happens
and these and
sometimes.
these people didn't like stop sharing a bed or anything.
What's really weird is I know couples where the person who was supposed to be at higher risk, like weakened immune system and such, did not get it, but the person who had a healthy immune system got it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Hmm.
my doctors have said if I get it, I die.
Well, that's
Because
you have a lot of issues to begin with. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I swear to God, a lot of it has to do with my nose, I think. I
Oh.
think my...
Speaking of
Huh?
bad news, actually, not that I just happened to think of it. Yeah, we had a scare over here too. Well, we had a couple of things happen. First of all, my mother's car broke down, so Friday was a mess. But my mother was still bound and determined that they were going to go see my sister on Saturday. Our game got canceled before I realized that was happening. Or after I realized that was happening, rather. And then while they were gone to my sister's, they found out that my grandmother was found unconscious in her, what do you want to call it? She's assisted living.
Okay.
This is my last grandmother. She was found unconscious and unresponsive. They immediately rushed her to the hospital that thankfully was next door. They found out that she had a stroke.
Ooh.
She did come out of it within 24 hours. Her speech was slightly slurred, but otherwise there, and she was cognitive enough to like respond to things and even remembered things. Like my aunt called her to double check on her, and she was literally the first thing on my grandmother's mouth apparently was, "So how was your interview?" Because she was interviewing for a job. Her entire left side apparently has been paralyzed, but last I heard, she was able to start wiggling her toes again. So they're taking her to therapy, and there's a possibility she might get it all back, but we'll have to wait and see.
So definitely a fighter then.
Oh yeah, that's my mother's side of the family. They built them like tanks over there.
Too crusty to die, huh?
Oh, my great grandmother lasted into her hundreds. And I'm trying to think, how old is grandma at this point? She's got to be at least in her 80s. I think she's in her 90s. And they'll be darned if they'll get her down before by the time great grandma went out.
Yeah, my
She has a say
family's
in it.
my great grandparents lived to be in their 90s. None of my grandparents lived out of their 60s. And my father died in his 40s, so I'm technically older than my father was when he died. I had that freak out a couple years ago.
But yeah, my grandmother will go when she says she's good and ready to go. As far as I'm concerned. She's not in the best condition, but she's still trying. Darn it. But yeah, that's my mother's side for you. All of them have been relatively long lived, except for the guys. All my grandfathers are all gone. They've been gone for a while now. I think the last one died while I was in college.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Mm-hmm. That was like 10 years ago at least. Actually, probably been closer to 12.
That doesn't say much for your life expectancy. Of course, we're in the same boat there.
Oh, just don't even get me there, because the next in the male line from my mother's side of the family was my uncle, and he got killed by a tree earlier this year.
I remember that.
Yeah. If it's not one thing, it's another, it seems.
Yep. So on less morbid updates, I actually do have some news I remembered after when we went from, ironically, when we went from food to COVID. It reminded me because I kind of scared myself. So basically, I switched from buying coffee grounds to buying beans and grinding them myself. And I guess it was stronger than I'm used to because I just noticed myself like out of breath during class this morning. And I was like, maybe I should check my temperature and shit. But it was just a combination of multitasking, anxiety, and caffeine that was causing it, not actually being sick.
Bill is trying to
yeah.
overdose himself now.
Oh yeah, I remember when I used to work third shift and ride that roller coaster with Mountain Dew.
But yeah, I'm guessing that freshly ground coffee the caffeine's a bit more accessible than buying Folgers grounds or whatever.
Oh, that stuff is like mixed with a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't even coffee, my dude.
True.
It's processed grounds. You're using raw grounds now.
They cut it like cocaine, man.
Well, there's no rat poison in the fresh beans. Relatively fresh, anyway. I'm sure they roasted it months ago. I don't know, but
Oh no, I don't check on that. You might actually be roasting it yourself for the first time, and you're getting some puree stuff.
I'm sure that would need more expensive equipment than I'm getting.
I'm tweaking, man. I'm tweaking hard.
You should buy Fulgeria. They pour themselves into their work. Okay, on tonight's show. We've got a few birthdays. We've got a bit of news. And not just Big Finish. Hey, there we go. We got some geek talk. And then our episode summary. We have 2 historical fact checks to do with tonight's episode. And then our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's get down into it, shall we? Our first birthday is on the 12th, and that was right after our last podcast, or actually during our last podcast.
During the last half hour or so.
And that was our own
Depending how
Thomas
you
Fireheart turned 30. So
and
that
because of how the last 4 years have been, I feel like I'm 40.
Shit, the past 12 months, I feel like I'm 50.
I couldn't find a good picture of you, so I just stole the icon you had on Facebook. Facebook.
Y'all can get off my lawn. Anyway,
catch your hula hoops.
2 days later was the birthday of Russell Tovey, who played Midshipman Alonzo Frame. In 2007, and again briefly in 2009, he just turned 39. Also, the same day is the birthday of Paul McGann, who played the Doctor in the 1996 movie, and for Big Finish, he turned 61. And then today, on the 18th, sees the birthday of Stephen Moffat, writer from 2005 to 2009, and showrunner from 2010 to 2017. He turned 59. And then, also today, Paul Jericho, the Castellan from 1983's Arc of Infinity, and again from 1983's The Five Doctors, turned 72. So, that's all the birthdays. Happy birthday to Thomas, Russell, Paul, Stephen, and Paul. Now to our main two pieces of news. The Doctor Who filming crew was spotted on the 13th and 16th of November filming in Morlae's Quarry, north of the town of Merthyr Tydfil, about 25 to 30 miles north of Cardiff. These quarries were used in the 13th century to mine stone for Morlae Castle, which was sacked by an enemy before completion, and the quarry has been abandoned ever since. It has since become a mecca for rock climbing enthusiasts in recent years due to its large amount of vertical cliffs. Doctor Who has filmed there once before, with Morlae filling in for the site of Mount Vesuvius in 2009's Fires of Pompeii.
It's been a while.
It was the Twitter account of the IT department at a local high school, out participating in a month-long Jog for Health event, that caught the crew filming. And on their second day, they could even see the TARDIS prop in their pictures. I take it you have that up?
I have the article with the top picture up, yes.
Yes, if you go down to the...
View this and post an Instagram in order to see anything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It does that every time. Every time it's an Instagram thing, you have to go to Instagram to see it. This is why I hate Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the pictures shows the guy looking in the camera, kind of taking a selfie. And in the background, you can see what looks to be their filming field, and you can just see the TARDIS prop just kind of sitting kind of on the middle of the moor.
Yeah, only picture that's available out of this article is the top one.
I have no idea why you have so much trouble seeing it and we don't.
Are you using Firefox?
No, I'm using Chrome.
That's probably why. Actually, so
Let me see.
Let me see if I can make a link for this then, because I can probably pop it into Chrome then really quick and see if it behaves there.
It behaves in Firefox for me too.
Doesn't behave in Chrome either. I don't know why. My computer just hates it. Apparently, my computer does not like Instagram.
It was kind of funny how at this point I'd be more surprised if there was a report of them filming in the UK and there wasn't a quarry involved.
Well,
Fair.
I did raise my eyebrows that the first filming location we got was a quarry, just because it's almost a stereotype for Doctor Who. But
unless the quarry is a decoy and they're actually filming in some covert location they don't want people knowing about.
Well, the thing is, at least this isn't your normal quarry. It's not an active quarry, so it's nothing but rocks and stone. This has had nature grow over it for, 600 years. But they're basically filming in the middle of a moor, so that's the second most likely place to see Doctor Who.
I guess it probably also helps with the fact that there's less likely to be as many people around than filming in a city at the moment.
That's probably why, yeah. We'll see how their filming crew reacts after the vaccine hits.
That's true. They might be holding off on doing anything on set until they can guarantee it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the way they're doing it right now is they're just doing multiple tests and keeping isolated for a couple of weeks, and then just once the tests are all in and it's negative, they're like, okay, let's go do it. And that's cast
right.
and crew, as far as I'm aware.
I've heard of companies that did that, and after testing hundreds of people, one person decided to do something stupid like go out and party one night and came back and got a bunch of people sick. So all it takes is one asshole.
It really does.
Yeah, which is probably why they're under strict supervision then. Because
Right.
it only takes one person doing something foolish and everything just goes to hell.
Anyway, moving on. So the new Dalek spin-off, episode 1, hit the internet last week. A few of us have watched it at this point. I will give my opinion, and then I'll let others give theirs. It seemed okay for basically a 15-minute short. The animation is simplistic. I'm not going to say it's like, totally that, but it's, it's a little more basic than the low animation we get from the recreations that they sell. But they're not really making any money off this, considering it's going straight onto the internet. So
they're paying Google more than anything else.
So they didn't bother to, waste capital on it. The audio is pretty much Big Finish standard because it's basically Nick Briggs doing as many Dalek voices as possible. And the plot seems a little, seems okay. I mean, it's basically somebody who's not the Doctor outsmarting the Daleks at their own game. Interesting enough is the various Dalek characters that we're seeing. The Emperor, basically their War Master, and their strategist, who sounds an awful lot like Davros. It's interesting, but it's not really doing much for me at this point. I'll let others give their thoughts now. Bill, Matt, I know you've both seen it.
I was waiting for someone else to say if they wanted to speak.
Oh yeah,
up
sorry.
first.
I was putting a note on the script that I didn't want to forget about. So but yeah, so I think I pretty much agree with what you've said. I did find it particularly interesting that the strategist had a kind of dingy, beat up casing, which
yeah, it looked like an original Dalek casing, like from the Daleks.
Right.
The problem is that it was traveling out around and it wasn't using any method to get power like the original Daleks use static electricity. You don't really see that. You don't see the dish on its back, or you don't see the additional packs or anything. So it makes you kind of wonder.
Did the ones in the Magician's Apprentice have that?
Not that I'm aware of, which is what I was about to say. As far as I'm concerned, they just upgraded it.
The ones in the Magician's Apprentice were in a Dalek structure.
Oh, I see. Oh, so it could have the static.
Oh, that's right. There is the
electricity
one
floor
scene where it
panels.
isn't in the Dalek structure. Otherwise, yeah,
Correct.
it was in the ship most of the time.
Yes.
Got you. But yeah, I found it interesting that the strategist would be the one with the most beat up, which I guess just means it survived the longest without any sort of change in position.
Without any major damage done to it, yeah.
But yeah, I like that they managed to the three main Daleks all had different voices. I know we've seen Dalek episodes where there were three Nicholas Briggs that just had slightly different pitches, and it gets old really fast, whereas the Emperor, Executioner, and Strategist all had unique voices, which was really helpful.
Executioner, that's what it was. Thank you.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that too, that it's not just pitches, but he also threw a little bit of difference between them in the way he spoke with mannerisms.
Yeah, Bill had the bonus of watching this just like, half hour ago, as opposed to those of us that watched it last week.
Well,
Mhm.
I just watched it like about an hour ago myself.
Mm. But yeah, it was like I don't know, was that like the voice effect of like the Daleks outside their casing in the RTD era? Was that like it wasn't a normal Dalek effect for the strategist?
I don't know if it
No,
was fully outside of the casing voice. No,
Mm.
no. Like I said, it sounded like Davros.
it was
It did too. I
was
had that
something
thought too,
similar
but
to it.
I
that's why I made sure to
to watch the
watch the
credits and
credits
see
before I
if
said
it's
anything.
Terry Malloy. Yeah,
But yeah, it's definitely had hints of Terry Malloy in there.
and it might be that it is Terry Malloy, and he's just not
Mhm.
being credited right now.
Yeah,
Or
because they're keeping it hush hush.
or
Maybe.
Nick Briggs doing a Terry Malloy impression to indicate that the reason it's a beat up casing is because it's Davros in
Oh,
disguise.
Nick Briggs can't do impressions.
You can't do impressions with an American accent.
Yes, he can't do them with an American accent.
He apparently can't do a North accent either.
I do not remember what his attempt at that sounded like, so I'll take your word for it because I don't remember.
I just remember the American accent in particular ticked off everybody.
Oh yeah,
I did think the Emperor looked a little small compared to my memory. Did anyone else feel that way?
Not particularly.
well, compared to the emperors that we saw in New Who, yes.
Or
Yeah.
even from Evil of the Daleks.
I don't remember
Not
Evil of the Daleks well
really.
enough.
Gotcha.
He seemed about the right size to me. If anything, they maybe made him look a little less top heavy. But that
Right.
could just be the fact that it's 3D animated as opposed to an actual thing on set.
Do
And
remember?
and I guess this one had to be a bit more mobile. Most of the emperors we've seen kind of just sit in like
Mhm.
not a throne, but you might as well call it a throne. Whereas this one was actually like wheeling around and like marching into the base without any red shirts. Interestingly enough,
So this might be the Emperor's field casing,
right?
made specifically for the war. Any other thoughts, Bill, or do we pass it to Matt?
I think that's all my thoughts.
All right, Matt.
I do like the idea of being able to see a little bit more of what makes the Daleks run the way that they do. That we've never really had a lot of it fleshed out since a long time ago. Like this is basically the first couple seasons in New Who.
Well, that and since their attempt at the Sentai Daleks.
That too. And most of that's been laid waste, so it's nice to see what the current continuity on that particular, how the system runs for them in particular. I will agree that the animation of this, what I got out of the animation of this is that it looked, I wanted to first say that it looked like PlayStation 3 graphics, but then I looked at the fire and I went, no, the fire in particular was really weirdly stylized on the low end, so it almost kind of smacked of me of like an indie developer's attempt at a Wii game.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the best way I could describe the visual effects on this. Again, not terrible, but not cutting edge by any means either.
No.
Trying to think other thoughts I had. I did think it was interesting where it was going, and then I found it even more interesting at the very end where it was seemingly a haha, it's a trap kind of a moment just before the end credits. I'm slightly interested in seeing where this is going, but I will say, and also I would say that I'm happy to see Daleks actually trying to look like a threat again. That's the number one problem I have with Doctor Who is that they keep taking away that threat level. It's nice to see them actually doing what Daleks are supposed to be doing.
Yeah, Daleks have a hard time of maintaining that level of threat, especially once Davros comes into play. Because once Davros is into play, the Daleks basically just become flunkies. They become Stormtrooper to Davros's Emperor.
Yeah, generally any long-running Doctor Who villain, once they show up way too often as well, it's just like it kind of kills it. It's like how like one of like the first season that introduced the Master is the villain in pretty much everything, and he has to lose every time.
Mhm.
So you've overexposed him, and it's kind of like, oh,
You're
well,
exposed to me basically turns into Dr. Claw.
Yeah. And then, then it's even worse because once you get to the Anthony Ainley days, he's basically Snidely Whiplash. I mean, mustache twirling, tie the damsel to the train tracks, kind of villain. Because every plan he has is kill the doctor.
Kill the doctor, kill the doctor.
And it wasn't until New Who that we started seeing him as a threat. And then they went camp with him again, and then we got Missy, which was completely what the hell.
Yeah, that was a bit of a bonker scene. You never knew really what to expect out of her for a while.
And then she almost became a hero, and then we're once again back to not that competent villain.
Yeah. We're basically back into Ainley again.
Not quite, but
Give him a
The
couple
last
more
The
attempts
last
at
time
it.
we saw the Master, he allegedly killed all of the Time Lords.
yeah, that's not a hard
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
That's a big allegedly, and if that's the truth, then I call bullshit.
Anyway,
And I'm pretty sure we have an hour recording of us calling bullshit, so.
yeah,
A half hour of that recording at least, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was about to state. Is move on.
Mhm.
Any other thoughts on the Dalek episode, Matt?
Any other thoughts on it? It's interesting. I'm not. I'm of the opinion that how long? Do we know how long this is supposed to be?
It's like 6 maybe episodes at the most.
I'd say
Either
I'm
4 or
willing
6.
to give this thing at least another 2 episodes and see where they go with it. If they keeps going somewhere interesting, I might stay on for the rest of it.
Is this supposed to be part of a longer project, or is it
It's
a
part of the
standalone
Time Lord
story?
Victorious.
Okay.
Which has been such a vague thing. I don't even know what the hell that's about.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a way to get you to buy the comics and Big Finish and novels, like all as a multimedia crossover event.
Mhm.
And who has this money?
The people who buy every Big Finish release every month and complain about how many releases because they spend $100 on Big Finish a month.
Well, that's their own problem. I wish I had a job. I wish I could get paid.
It's like there are people who buy more Big Finish in a month than I buy in a year. I think they're the target audience of Time Lord Victorious.
So what you're basically telling me is milk the whales.
Pretty
Mhm.
much, yes, exactly.
It was
Milk
like
the
me back-
whales.
That's exactly it.
It was like me back at the days of my height of my comic book addiction back in the 90s, when I was collecting 2 different volumes of X-Men plus Excalibur plus
Mhm.
X-Force plus X-Factor plus Generation
Yeah,
X plus
right.
yeah.
So this is the month where they cross over and you need to buy a VHS tape and a limited edition maxi series and 3 extra comics that normally have low sales and the board game just for good measure.
Yeah, I stopped doing that because I realized I was spending all of my existing money on X-Men titles, and I still wasn't able to collect them all. So I was like, yeah, fuck this shit. Plus the art went to shit. So, and that's kind of what I'm seeing here is they're going for quantity over quality.
It at least comes across that way on the surface. I haven't looked deeply at any of it, but that's how I've felt looking at their promotional materials.
Okay, so yeah, apparently this is a 5-part
Oh, it's a 5-parter, okay.
thing.
Five-parter. All right. Well, I knew it was 4 to 6, and 5's right in the middle. So
Yeah.
All right. Should we move on to Big Finish?
One last comment. 6,000 likes to 300 dislikes
what on its
on the video.
Yeah, it's kind of 2/3, 1/3. That's kind of a mixed view.
6K compared to 300.
Oh, 6K compared to 300.
Yeah.
Oh.
No. Yeah,
I know.
that's like
Oh, never mind. Never.
yeah, that's 0.3 compared to the
Never
rest of it.
mind.
So
All
it's
right.
doing well. Moving on.
Moving on to Big Finish. There's some new releases this week. A couple of them. Fifth Doctor, Wicked Sisters, with oddly enough Peter Davison and Louise Jameson. That's right. The Fifth Doctor and Leela. Figure that one out.
I forget how that timeline happens, what's happened.
At this point, I'm pretty sure Big Finish just has the randomizer going on. It's like, we're going to make an adventure with this doctor and this companion.
I'm pretty sure Louise Jameson just like calls them up and is like, "Hey, I want to work today." Okay, which doctor are we working with today?
Well, we have this timeline with you with the Fifth Doctor. We can do another one of those. Okay.
Yeah, it just seems to me like it's just that it's the randomizer. They just spin a wheel, and that's the doctor. Spin a wheel, that's the companion.
Oh, I don't even think it's been a wheel at this point. I think it's just a dartboard.
Yeah.
Spinning
Dartboard with a
wheel,
blindfold.
it's Paul McGann and Jamie. Okay.
Okay, we could try doing that.
Yeah.
We'll hand wave it, and Jamie just ends up in the Sixth Doctor TARDIS. Okay, bye-bye. I got a script for this.
Also this week is Torchwood. Reese and Ianto's Excellent Barbecue with, of course, Gareth David Lloyd and Kai Owen. And that's the Torchwood release for this month. The free audio this week is non-Doctor Who related.
So move it along.
To talk.
Yes, to Geek Talk. So, Thomas, you're first.
Yep. I feel like I brought this up in the text chat, but this was so bizarre to find out that if I wanted to go through the Danganronpa franchise in like the order you should, then I had to watch the anime first, like this particular anime first, before playing Danganronpa V3, which is a new storyline entirely, and this anime has nothing to do with it. And this anime is just a conclusion of 1, 2, and Ultra Despair Girls. Which I'm glad that I kind of watched it almost right after Ultra Despair Girls, because, or like generally that I played Ultra Despair Girls before getting to this, because they're like, they flat out have the characters from that game in this anime, so that would have been like, what the fuck, what's this, where'd this come from? And they did manage to trick me a few times. Like there's what's sort of revealed as a twist at one point, and then it turns out later, oh well, no, that actually didn't go to anything, so oh well, it was just kind of a red herring. It's one of those things where they want you. It's funny how some of the characters are so disposable in a way, because they're like, the characters that you're supposed to care about are ones that are coming back from like the first game, and everyone else pretty much to a point is basically just fodder to die. Or like doesn't really have much. Also, this has a really weird watching order, because apparently, because this is 24 episodes long, but this was aired over 12 to 13 weeks. So
So like
you
two of them a week?
Yeah, you have the future arc and the despair arc. The future arc is present day. Following the characters we know from the first game primarily, and a bunch of other people that have been chucked into a new game of sorts, but there's no trial aspect. And the despair arc is basically the backstory of the characters in Danganronpa 2. And finding out how everything that went on with them that led into the second game. And it's basically like you go back and forth between those. So you need to watch episode 1 of Future Arc, then Despair arc, but I didn't find out about that until I was 3 episodes in to the future arc. So I'm like, oh shit, okay. And then I went back and watched that, and to a point, yeah, you kind of need to, or at least it helps explain certain elements a bit better, so certain things don't come out of nowhere as much. And the future arc is 12 episodes, and the Despair arc is 11. So in the week of the final episode of the future arc, instead of being followed up by another Despair arc episode, it's just what is referred to as the Hope arc, which is basically just the finale, where the two arcs finally kind of combine into one. I will say the final episode almost made me cry in a good way, so I was not expecting that, but that was kind of like, wow, I kind of needed that after this year, really, but also after the Ultra Despair Girls, which is just a slog as far as like how brutal that can be in some ways. Yeah, like I would definitely say if you have played or watched Let's Plays of or whatever, the first 2 games and Ultra Despair Girls, I would say absolutely watch this anime. Especially because you kind of have to if you want the conclusion to the story, considering Danganronpa V3, the game, is again like I've started playing it, and yeah, it's like as far as I can tell so far, it is a completely different completely different set of characters, completely different scenario, all this. So yeah, this Danganronpa 3, The End of Hope's Peak High School, is like the end of that storyline, and V3 is the start of a new one. But yeah, I would definitely recommend people check this one out.
That being said, I've heard other things like the recent Final Fantasy 15 has a weird mishmash with show 2, and it's just like, why does all these things have to be so confusing?
Yeah, that's like Kingsglaive. I think it's like a movie, and the movie serves as like a prequel or something to the
And
anime.
at
To
least
the
with
game,
that
I
game,
mean.
I can understand that there was some things that went down behind the scenes where they couldn't get everything that they wanted into the game, but
Which is kind of funny when it kind of says something when they're like, this game is long enough already. We should probably just make a movie for people to watch.
Well, they put too much effort into the product placement.
Arg. Anyway, so that was your final thoughts on that?
Yep.
Speaking of video games.
Yep, speaking of video games, I have played and decided to stop playing Majesty, the Fantasy Kingdom sim. So, let me give you this basic premise, right? So, this game was released originally, I believe, in 2000 or 2001, depending upon where you're looking at it. So, this game came out while I was in high school. I do vaguely remember playing the demo for this, and like there's some certain like cheesy sound effects and stuff that give me a good chuckle every once in a while. Literally, there's so enemy units can randomly spawn through these like little gates and stuff, and they could endlessly spawn minor monsters like zombies. When a zombie goes up to one of your guys and tries to attack it, literally the animation just has it raise up its arms straight out in front of it really quickly, and then it just makes the sound of oop, oop every time it attacks. Oop. Just really weird little things like that. That just gave me the giggles when I was watching this stuff happen on my old computer at the time. And I, as soon as I saw that happen again, I just like, wait, I remember this game. That being said, I was playing this, and I decided to play the main scenario of the game. The very loose basis is that you're supposed to be the first king to start up this kingdom. I'm trying to remember what the name of the kingdom was. Amalur or Avalor or something like that. There's actually an ongoing franchise of this game series apparently, and they go beyond just the two Majesty titles. But focusing on this one in particular, since this is the first entry, it's a real-time strategy game, and you can create units. But here's the main catch of the game: you can create buildings and you can create units, but you have a maximum number of units you can make. Each of the main heroes guilds can only allow you up to 4 heroes, and you only have, I believe, 4 guilds I can remember. I can remember there's the Rangers Guild, the Warriors Guild, the Thieves Guild, and the Wizards Guild. Wizards can be really awesome, but you have to get them up to their end levels really quickly, otherwise they're super squish. Also, another big problem with wizards is that you can only summon them after your castle has been upgraded to level 2. So that can take a while unless you're spending a lot of money right up front and spend the rest of your money on towers to defend yourself. And you actually have to, and for your majority of your money, you have to rely on taxes. I don't think you can actually change the flux of how high the taxes can go, but the main thing is that when your heroes spend money in certain places, including inns and in the marketplace, you get to tax those, and that brings a big chunk of money back to you, which you can then spend to continue upgrading your buildings and your heroes and making sure the market has more gear like teleportation rings and stuff, and just keep things going and keep powering up your heroes to try and accomplish whatever goal it is. The beginners levels, there's a couple of close calls, but most of the time I could defeat all the beginners levels in Majesty. They were pretty fun and they were a nice little romp. I had run out of beginners levels and was forced into the advanced levels. Failed at least 6 or 7 times I can remember. I might have even failed more often than that. There was not a single win I could get in advanced. All of a sudden, here's the big thing too. You can't actually tell your units what to do. Your heroes, all of them, run on their own little AI, and whatever their AI tells them to do is what they run off and do. The Rangers will just run off into the woods and just frolic about for a bit. Your Warriors will just run around in circles, just looking for something to do, and then go back to base and nap. Your Wizards will step outside, decide that there's nothing that they can afford and nothing nearby that they can easily crush with a fireball, and go right back into their Wizard's Tower and also take a nap. If the thieves can't find any place to steal stuff from, they'll also just kind of wander around aimlessly for a little bit and then go back to their group again and just hide for a while. You can have markers that you can tell your units to go do certain things, like investigate this dark patch in the map. You set up a marker. You put 200 gold there. 10 minutes later, no one's gone over there. You have to add more and more gold to an obscene level before someone actually gets their ass in gear and finally wanders over there. Even worse yet, if you want to actually attack enemy bases, you have to spend even more money. And even worse on top of that is one of the missions I was trying to complete, there's actually a timer that goes off in your corner of your map and corner of your game, and it tells you how many days you've been spent in game trying to accomplish something. The one mission that they wanted me to do in advance was a timed one where I had to take down enemy bases within 30 days or have 50,000 gold. 50,000 gold is very hard to get. Even harder to get is your heroes in gear in order to go attack something, even though you've put 400 gold on blowing this building away. The AI just wants to wander around, and as soon as it gets halfway there, decides, nah, it's too hard, and goes walking back to town. At that point, after the 6th or 7th time of trying to blow things over, and they just don't want to listen, I just got livid and said, fuck this. I cannot, unless someone can tell me what I'm doing wrong, I can't recommend Majesty, sadly. However, I will say I have been playing Majesty 2, which does have some of the same stuff, but is definitely a more upgraded game, and it does seem better at telling me what I'm doing wrong, if I am doing anything wrong. So, I might be giving a glowing review to Majesty 2 instead, because at least it can tell me what's going wrong. But that'll have to wait for when I decide I'm done playing that. Yeah, everything good?
All right.
All right.
Just long quiet.
I was just double checking something. Seeing if I could come up with any questions. I could not. So that will do it for Geek Talk.
Yeah, I'll do it for Majesty.
And that takes us to the episode summary.
Yes, it does. Who is it today?
You.
Oh. I was not made aware of this. Okay.
I hope you paid enough attention.
I need to actually remember names of things. Of course, my number one weakness, I can't remember the name of freaking anything. Actually, don't we have something we wanted to mention, the historical parts, or do we do that after the review?
Yeah, we moved that to after the summary.
Okay.
Yes.
After the summary. Actually, really quick. Because I can't figure out how to spell this.
It's all Italian, too, so unless you have any familiarity with Italian names, you're going to have trouble with it.
Just think it could be worse. It could be in Wales.
I wouldn't even
It could be
try
Wales
to
where half the syllables don't exist.
I probably wouldn't even try to pronounce half the names if they were Welsh enough. It's like this name has 6 consonants and 1 vowel. Moving on.
Well, that's not like the stuff I want to get. Like the first, really early on, there's like names of things I'm trying to remember, and I can't remember. The something helix and whatever. Oh, this is going to be a rough one to try to remember names for. Okay, what is this?
Mandragora helix. Or Mandragora helix, whichever you feel like.
Okay. I was just loaded fine else and things popped up and ruined it. Okay, let's just close those. There we go. Okay, I think I'm ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so we start off in the TARDIS with the Doctor and Sarah Jane, and as they're traveling, they are checking out the inside of the TARDIS and having a look around. They find the boot cabinet, which apparently is as large as a living room, possibly larger, and then they happen upon the second control room. The Doctor dusting off a few things and even finding some old utensils left over from previous Doctors, finally starts to power up the second console and has a look around. After opening up the main screen, he finally realizes that they're heading towards the Mandragora helix, which is a apparently intelligent living energy structure. He tries to pull them away, but they can't seem to get out of there in time. He tells Sarah to start concentrating on other things in order to help not be harmed by the energy structure mentally as they're going through it. Finally, by the end, they have landed. The Doctor and Sarah step out for a moment to have a look around, and the place has a very weird echo and is surrounded by giant crystals. However, as they're sitting there, a blast of energy comes racing towards them. They quickly hide behind the TARDIS. The energy apparently having dissipated and run off, they decide it's time to leave because it's a bit too dangerous here, and to take off in the TARDIS. However, as soon as they get into TARDIS, apparently it took off on its own, and the two are off exploring. It takes the Doctor a few moments to realize that they're apparently on Earth, and according to a glass piece of ware that he found on the ground, he believes that they're somewhere around the 15th century. Not a particularly pleasant era, as he recalls, before suddenly realizing Sarah has gone missing. He confronts some men in robes and is knocked out by one of them by surprise. Trying to make contact with one of the locals, who are Italian, apparently, the peasant is quickly attacked by the spark of energy, which also has left the TARDIS now, and the Doctor tries to chase after it, becoming involved in a local kingdom. I believe is the Duke there? Is the uncle?
No, the Count is the
The
uncle.
Count, right? The uncle who is the Count uh, is trying to vie for control of the dukedom, rather, and upon confronting the Doctor, decides that he's annoyed with him and has him executed. The Doctor manages to escape. While also escaping, he comes across the fact that one of the local guards has also been attacked and murdered by the strange power source, but can't stay and try and help because he's still under arrest and people are after him. It is the Duke's son who is about to be officially proclaimed Duke soon, who is the one that saves the Doctor. Shortly after, I believe, he also saves Sarah from apparently a cult that kidnapped her. And the cult is believed to have been gone since about a couple centuries beforehand, but is apparently still struggling to survive underground.
More like
And
12 centuries.
something like that. Anyway, after a bit of trying to figure out what's going on, it's decided that whatever has caused all this to happen, the energy was somehow drawn here for one reason or another that the Doctor can't quite put together yet. After a few attempts to look at their base and trying to find out what happened to the energy and what it's actually planning, the Doctor also has to survive Sarah Jane being brainwashed at one point and sent to attack the Doctor, and also save the Duke from his uncle at one point as well during the midst of a sword fight. All this happening, he finally discovers that the mask of the, I guess, soothsayer, if you will, of the Count, he finds out that the mask is made out of a similar material that draws in the energy from the Mandragora. Mandragora. Mantra. Yeah,
Either way works.
The mantra. It draws in the energy of the mantra and has been allowing this man to also use the energy as a weapon. The Doctor, figuring this out, also figures out that, well, it's basically an energy source, so if he can ground it and draw the energy out of it, he can possibly kill off the source and also get rid of the cult and just depower the thing and be rid of all the problems. Meanwhile, the castle does brace itself for being under attack, while all the popular local artists and scientists have been brought in to celebrate the new dukedom. Most of them remain in hiding, even though there is a mask going on. It is believed at this point that the cult has managed to slip in disguise, but at the very last moment it is revealed that, in fact, their leader was the Doctor pretending to be the leader, and that he had actually won his fight against him and caused the power to dissipate and thus also dematerialize the leader of the cult. So when he drew the cult back in for one last reprisal, they were also eradicated and disintegrated into nothing. And the Doctor was allowed to let everyone else free. He and Sarah head back to the TARDIS, and the Duke watches on, slightly depressed that apparently a very wise person in science was leaving, and watched on as the TARDIS takes off. The end.
All right, you did that in 5 minutes 53 seconds.
Yeesh.
And you forgot to mention the Dr. Salami.
Oh, and yes, apparently he has pocket salami.
That sounds like a euphemism.
It does, but it's not.
He has salami. Apparently it's a good year.
Someone press the George Takei button.
Oh my.
Oh my. Anyway, now we move on to our historical fact check.
Yes. Yeah, it's still highlighted blue, so I'm assuming it's still me.
Well, yeah, I might add in the odd comment.
Right. So yeah, so this was one where I was watching the episode and I literally had to stop and see and look it up while watching it because it annoyed the hell out of me. But Giuliano talks to Sarah Jane about his theory that the Earth is actually round. And the idea of people believing that the Earth is flat in the Middle Ages is pretty much something that people came up with retroactively as just kind of a way to try and guess what they were thinking or their motivations. Europeans knew that the Earth was round as early as the 5th century BCE, and this is set the same year that Columbus took off for India by heading east. And the only reason that he was stupid about that was that he got the whole idea of the shape and size of the Earth wrong, not that it was round. So nobody would
You
have
mean by
been
heading
shocked by
west?
his theory.
Okay.
Yes, you're right. Sorry, by heading west. The map was backward in my head.
Yeah. Everybody modern time credits Columbus as the one that believed the Earth was round. This is not true.
Right.
Columbus actually thought the Earth was pear-shaped and smaller than it actually is, whereas the spherical nature and size of the Earth had been around since ancient Greece times.
Matter of fact, I believe there are biblical accounts of people trying to measure how much the Earth slants, and they were actually not perfect on it, but they weren't too far off apparently at some points.
Now, there might be some very common uneducated people that lived inland that thought the Earth was flat because they didn't know any better, and
but not the nobility, I would hope.
Not the nobility, and not anybody that was in the maritime business. So you lived on the coast, you knew this because you needed to.
You just knew that because look out there.
And Italy is very has a very high coast to land ratio.
True.
What people didn't know at the time was that there were 2 continents to the west of Europe that were eventually be called the Americas. They just thought that the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean was one gigantic ocean. So when Ferdinand and Isabel of Spain gave Columbus money, or financed him with 3 ships and food, they were writing that off as a loss. They were planning on him sailing out to the west, running out of food provisions, and dying at sea. They
weren't thinking he was going to fall off the edge of the world. They just figured he was going to die out there starving and never come back.
Although, if they had talked to some people to the north, they might have known about the Americas. But I'm pretty sure
no, the people to the north were not people you talked to.
That's not what we're saying. We're saying that if they could, they would have learned something else. But
I wasn't quite sure the timeline on Vikings, so I didn't want to make any claims I didn't know about.
Bill, Vikings were never friendly with anybody for a very long time.
I didn't know at what point they transitioned from being the Vikings we see in media to being something more like a modern day European. I don't really know the timeline there.
I would still say a couple centuries after this point still.
Actually, the Vikings had more or less died off by this point, because most of the Viking raids were kind of ended in the 11th century. There were probably a few people that still went off and did it, but
even if there weren't technically Vikings in the way that we normally think of Vikings, they probably still weren't on friendly terms. So
yeah,
right. Especially if they weren't Catholic.
And the fact that at that point, the actual knowledge that they had of the Americas had probably been lost.
Possibly too.
Right.
It was just that weird place that they visited for a while and then went, this place is crazy, let's not come back, and left.
Yeah, this place sucks, let's go back. Because, of course, the Americas is God's country and God wants us out.
So if they would have explored more, they would have found beaver.
Well, God ends things like Tornado Alley and freaking Hurricane Alley and Earthquake Alley. So no, that's just it. It's
a death continent.
Yeah,
it was basically America to them was what Australia is to us now.
Yes, the only worse continent to be on than the Americas is Australia. Hi, Thomas.
And Antarctica. I don't know if they knew about Antarctica at that time, though. Probably
Nobody.
not.
No, nobody had dared to go that far deep to the north
South.
or south.
Yeah. There's no continent up to the north. Down south, yes, there's a big landmass. But about the size of Australia.
Although I recently encountered somebody on social media that thought that both poles were just covered with ice. I was like, actually, there's land at one of them.
Mm-hmm. There's actually land at one of them, and people live there. Crazy, right?
Not
Not in the traditional sense.
Not in the traditional sense.
Well, not in the traditional sense, but there's still people near there.
There are scientists that have little outpost stations out there, and that's about it. Nobody sane lives on Antarctica except penguins. And the sanity of penguins is questionable. But yes, so nobody knew about the Americas. So when Columbus sailed out that way and hit there, he thought he hit India because he's a dumbass.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah, everybody knew the Earth was round. For anybody with an education thought the Earth was round. There's more people today that think the Earth is flat than there probably was in the 15th century.
Sadly.
Hmm.
The world is
So,
full of
yeah.
brain damaged clowns. That's all I'm going to say.
So yeah, that was a bunch of bullshit there. I originally thought that San Martino was San Marino, and I thought, well, no, they don't have dukes, but no. It was the fictional country of San Martino, or Duchy of San Martino,
Yeah.
which could have been anywhere in Italy.
Which
But
apparently is the name of a ton of like villages and towns and shit in Italy,
yeah,
but
So-
not a duchy.
so it could have been anywhere. But I will point out that this being 1492, Italian politics at this point is dominated by one family, the infamous Borgias. So it's kind of odd that no reference to the Borgias were brought up during this, considering that they were considering all the bigwigs that were supposed to be traveling to this place.
Right. Yeah, if it was an
No.
isolated thing with only locals, that would make sense. But they mentioned Da Vinci like 5 times.
And you know who Da Vinci was working for in 1492? The Borgias.
Of course.
So yeah, that's kind of odd. That's a bit of a historical failure there too.
Shrug. Hiccup.
What, you don't know anything about the Borgias, Matt?
Nope.
They were
I do not either.
They were a horrible family.
Okay.
Ah,
Typical.
All I really
I know that if they were bigwigs in Italy, that they did not fund Columbus to do things.
Take the count from this episode and make a whole family of them.
Oh, jeez. That's just what
Yeah.
we need. So
And-
let
and-
us
and-
bloodbaths.
And combine them with what's the family from freaking Game of Thrones?
Lannisters.
Yeah, the Lannisters.
Mhm.
You add all the
In more
worst
ways
traits
than
of the
one.
Lannisters, add all the worst traits of the Lannisters, and all the worst traits of the Count for this, and blend them into one family, and that's essentially the Borgias. Because they believed in keeping power by any means necessary.
Although related, the real
And
life Lancasters would have been around at that point because the War of the Roses was from 1455 to 1485.
The Borgias also believed in keeping it in the family.
I was about to say, I am assuming there's some special children in that family.
Anyway, we are to the review.
Yep.
So tell me what you liked about this episode, and I haven't rolled yet.
I had a
Shame.
feeling. I almost said it, but I was like, let him prove me wrong, and then you proved me right.
All right. Well, it's not Bill starting this time. It is Matt.
Oh, jeez. Okay. So
Back to the
everyth's coming
reigning
up me
champion.
today. Everything's coming up Zoidberg.
The dice have a favorite, and it's you.
Funny, it hates me any other time. Shake my fist at D&D. Favorite thing overall. I actually I still like. I have to say this episode in particular. I really like Tom a lot. There's a lot of. He was just throwing down some thick references here and there.
Mm.
Yes, the Da Vinci thing came up several times, but he also mentioned, what was it? Florence Nightingale and
Mhm.
I think there's a couple.
Cleopatra.
Cleopatra and one
Yeah.
of her lead guards, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, he mentioned learning something from one of Cleopatra's guards, and I was kind of waiting for. I think he was talking to Giuliano at the time for him to say something, and nothing happened.
It looked like he wanted to, but
But was confused.
yeah.
I believe that was after the sword fight that they had at one point.
Yeah,
what
he
other
said
reference
the
did he
best
throw
swordsman
down?
he ever knew was the head guard for
Oh,
Cleopatra. And he stalked her.
actually, one of my favorite chestnuts. I don't even know why I like you humans so much. He just wanders off because you have good taste. That's for certain.
All right, Thomas.
I guess I'll just go with the sets. I mean, it kind of goes without saying that Doctor Who's track record back then was usually that the historical sets looked a hell of a lot better than the ones that they had just had to like pull out of their ass to be like, yeah, I guess this is a spaceship, whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting. I remember learning about there was like something jogged my memory that this was, even though this was technically location filming, they were doing this in like Wales, I think, because like some guy at some point in Wales just decided, fuck it, I'm gonna make all this Italian like Italian architecture or something so it can pass. So they were just like, oh cool, let's take advantage of that, so we don't have to go to Italy.
Italy on a budget. Just find a castle.
Kind of amazing they haven't shot there since, to be honest.
Give him time.
Everything comes
All
around
right.
full circle.
Bill.
So I really liked the guest cast on this one. It was a good size. They were all easily distinguishable, and there was one I didn't know the characters apart at this point, and I didn't have time to watch it a second time. But what really impressed me was that they were using old timey speak, but they still managed to make it sound casual and realistic, like a person who spoke that every day. I'm guessing that they were an established stage actor because it definitely takes practice to pull that off. But yeah, just in general, the guest characters for this episode were good.
All right. So I liked the whole concept of the cult of Deimos. And I like this. I probably wouldn't have liked this when I originally saw it, but I like this because it apparently inspired a game developer for Ubisoft.
Oh.
Yes.
Apparently, it inspired Canine and Company too.
For those of you that might have played any of the Assassin's Creed games, I have just posted a picture in podcast chat. This is a member of the cult in Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Interesting.
Does that kind of look familiar? Yes, the mask isn't gold. Actually, there's a couple of gold masks in that game. Yeah. And by the way, who is the leader of the cult in that game? A person called Deimos. Pretty sure they were an old school Who fan. What do you think?
It's a shame I can't show it on stream.
What?
Like your image, it's constantly going directly to download.
Oh, Jesus, your computer's all fucked up, man.
It's not my computer. Fucking Discord has been acting up today. Period.
Which
Did-
Assassin's Creed game was it? Matt could just Google or look it up.
Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Assassin's Creed.
Trying to say Google it, but I think he likes to duck go it.
See. Demos?
Just look up Cult. Assassin's Creed Odyssey Cult.
Oh, here we go. Oh, wow. Oh, holy shit.
Yeah, they're technically called the Cult of Cosmos in that, but
I have a special one to show you. I'm going to put this up on stream first. But take a look at this one.
yep. I even know what scene that's from.
If that isn't a dead giveaway. He's talking to a glowy object. This seems familiar from an episode of Doctor Who I just watched.
So yeah. I'm pretty sure that the developers were inspired by Masque of Mandragora for this. Do you guys agree with me?
That
I would
seems pretty
agree
on the
that,
nose
yeah.
for the most part, yeah.
Okay. So what didn't we like about this episode?
Oh gosh, going back around
Matt.
to me, what didn't I like about this episode? The visual effects were fine for the time. I'm trying to think. Anything in particular I can nitpick that was a general thing I didn't like. Actually, you know what? There's one thing I didn't like about this. I guess it might have been a budgetary reason or something, but one thing that started to irk me in the last couple episodes is they're constantly going on about how the cult wars are attacking people and setting things on fire and stuff, and they don't share a lick of it on screen.
Yeah.
Like, not even a second. We don't even get guys in robes running through a either burning or at the very least very abandoned looking village. We just get nothing but inside the castle shots, and we have to take people's word for it.
Yeah, it would have been
Yeah.
nice to see them going through that marketplace with torches.
Mm.
Remember the
Yeah, like-
marketplace that Tom Baker was in earlier, which I'm pretty sure was a set piece?
Yeah, that we had little bits of that and a couple other things there too, and that could have easily been done
Yeah.
with just some timed planning.
Yeah, like it's also kind of funny that they don't even give us a shot of it's like, oh well, the cult members are like surrounding the
They're surrounding the castle and they're
And it's
looking in
like-
the shadows. Show
Yeah,
us
and there
that!
there is like an actual castle there, so like they couldn't
They couldn't
get
do one
permission
reverse
to,
shot to show us that they're
stand
lurking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not even a budgetary problem. That's just a problem of being lazy and not going on and taking one shot with a camera. Because they have plenty of guys and plenty of masks and plenty of robes, so...
And yeah, like you don't even need actors for that. You could just throw a bunch of robes on the crew if you need to make up
you could
the
literally just throw robes on the crew and just have them creepily, quietly walking up into camera shot and just hold.
numbers.
Would have been a very easy shot to do, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I'm looking at the location shoots for this, and none of the location shoots were used for that little market scene. So I'm pretty sure that was a set piece.
That would have been even easier to use then.
Oh wait, nope. I'm sorry, that was a location shot.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure it was, but even if it wasn't, it still means it would have been easy enough to reuse.
But all of the food and vendor stalls and everything, those were all props. This Hang on. I need to make sure. I'm hoping Matt will be able to see this. This is that same square.
Oh dear. Open original. Please don't fuck up. Okay. Actually, copy link. If you're gonna behave, if you behave this time.
So everything.
Why are you trying to download it?
I don't know. There's something
I'm
wrong
even
with
copying. What are you doing to copy these links?
I'm going to.
He's just uploading it.
I'm
They're not links.
Yeah.
No,
No,
in
I'm
this
not
particular
uploading
case,
links.
in this
I
particular
open
case,
the image.
it showed
I
as a
open the
link.
image in a new tab, and then I just copy the URL and paste
Oh.
it in.
Yeah,
I don't know.
sometimes
I don't know why. I told it to copy URL. I put it into a web browser, and it was trying to download it again. I told it to just open the link in directly this time, and it opened up now. But yeah, that's not a castle.
No. That was the market that the doctor
Yeah.
hid from the soldiers in.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, that's not the castle. So, Yeah, like the little stalls were like just a couple of feet away from that little centerpiece.
Mm-hmm. But so all of the stalls and everything were props. So if they had burned the stalls, if they were careful, they could have gotten away with that.
They could have gotten away with it if they were careful about what they did. I was also saying that you didn't even need to necessarily set things on fire. You just need to have them go walking down this area with the stalls and just have like a few things knocked over, make it look like the place was abandoned and it's just cultists walking through. That would have been enough for most people. Just give us something.
Yeah.
We just have people look out the window and then come back and go, they've made the town go abandoned.
So yeah, all of this was a town in Snowdonia, which is northern Wales.
Oh wait, that does not sound like a real name.
What?
Snowdonia.
It's Snowdonia is the area around Mount Snowdon, which is pretty much the northern part of Wales.
Snowdon is a place I'm aware of, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's where Sans and Papyrus live, right?
I'll slap you, Bill.
Anyway, but yeah, somebody built this as an example of how you could take advantage of the landscape to landscape architecture, which came out to be this kind of almost Renaissance Italian style.
So they just basically redressed it when it was less technicolor.
Mm-hmm.
And put fake stalls there.
In some cases, it's likely that some of these buildings have been repainted since the original filming.
Yeah, that's what I was considering.
No, they were painted the same color. They just got repainted so that they're more vibrant. Because I can see the same colors on some of the building pieces. It just looks more faded in Masque than it does in the pictures I'm seeing now.
Or it could have just been the cameras they're using. That's a possibility too. Anyway.
Okay, so where were we?
That was Matt. So
yeah, that was my least favorite. So yeah.
I beat Thomas. Yeah.
You know what? Given that I kind of piggybacked on the Mets anyway, and I think that was one of the few things I could think of, I'm just gonna pass.
Okay. Bill?
So I'm torn to go with the one that's somewhat more interesting to talk about versus the one that's going to have a bigger effect on my rating. But yeah, I guess I'll go with the one that'll have more effect on my rating, which is I wasn't a huge fan of the visual effects, particularly the ones to do with the Mandragora. It looked, I don't know, kind of cheesy to me, and just I can't really quite describe it, but it just didn't. I wasn't a fan of it.
I
You
was
mean the
fine
vague
with that.
transparent red orb?
Yeah.
I was fine with that. That's 70s.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta remember, the British visuals are like about a decade behind American
Mm-hmm.
visuals, so if you expect to see it in Star Trek, yeah, I expected that.
What was your other one, Bill? Because I'm kind of bereft
Okay.
right now.
So my other one was really like on the nitpicky side, and that is that with the amount that they talk about Da Vinci and how Giuliano is like a man of science, I really wish they used more Renaissance era science or technology in their problem solving plans, and they didn't really do any of that.
They had one scene where the doctor's using a telescope and an astrolabe.
Mm. But like Giuliano pitching like some sort of scientific solution to deal with the cult, or like the doctor building an ornithopter or something.
Well, oh God, no.
No, Bill, you're asking for a totally different adventure as opposed to an underground cult.
No, I just mean like a scene, or like just because if they're gonna keep bringing it up, I feel like there should be a bit more payoff to it. Is the only reason. That's what I said. It's on the nitpicky side. It's not a
using
major
like
thing.
a Da Vinci hang glider, that would have been nice.
Right.
But let's actually choose Da Vinci inventions that actually fucking work.
I mean, if the doctor made it, it would work.
No.
No.
The
No,
doctor
Bill.
would fix the design. You know that already. That's
Bill, you're fired. Now you're hired. Come back here. I need you.
This is Doctor Who, not Jim will fix it.
What kind of budget do you think this show's got, Bill?
better than it has 10 years down the line.
No, the problem is that it has the same budget.
Now my brain is stuck because it's seeing that where they're inventing it, and it's going to a fucking A-Team montage.
I got a better one for you. Now take a look at this and then start humming the He-Man theme to yourself.
Oh no, the He-Man theme isn't working. The A-Team montage.
No. Look at the image I just shared.
No. Damn it, Matt. Go back to the screen when I was stretching my back.
Do.
I mean, it's orange and blue. It's every movie poster since Star Wars, probably before Star Wars.
A lot of the shiny bits just remind me of the He-Man movie in particular.
No, a lot of it also reminds me of the poster for the first Star Trek.
That I guess is true too.
Now I want to look up the origin of the orange and blue movie poster.
It's art theory, Bill. It goes way back. Anyways,
I'll take Bill as taken for mine. Let's go to favorite scene, Matt.
Favorite scene
From a hat. No.
I could honestly, I could almost pull a bunch of them in a hat and just decide from there. Just trying to decide on one of them though. Because there's a lot of good little bits to like in this one. I was gonna go for that one, but I think that one's too obvious. I'll let someone else have that one. Next one from there. You know what? I liked the bit where the doctor shows up in the what's his name? The cult leader's lab.
Okay.
Literally, he's just conjuring up something. All of a sudden, boom! There's the doctor. How'd you get here? and it's just that entire scene just becomes a multitude of things all at once. Just him revealing that he was always aware that Sarah Jane was mind robbed, and that the fact that he was obviously coming here because he was figuring out that the guy was the leader of the cult, and a slew of other things that just kind of unwind right there in a couple of moments. This was just a really good moment, and that was just a spectacular opener for the Doctor just to appear.
All right. Thomas?
So I remembered something I was going to use as an alternative aspect that I liked. So I'll use a scene to get that across, and it's basically when the Doctor manages to initially get away from the guards, and at first you're like, oh great, incompetent guards again. And without really much trouble, they do actually manage to catch him again. It's like, oh my god, thank you. Competent guard. I mean, yeah, the soldiers basically, so it's like you'd hope so. But
They
with
literally
Dr.
split up and then catch him on the head on the road. Yeah.
Was
Yeah,
this
it's
the
like-
first time or the second time?
First time we're talking about.
Oh, that's right, because
first.
the second time he does get away.
Hmm.
Yeah, the second time he does get away.
Yeah, so it is kind of amazing that it's like, oh my god, like guards or soldiers that were actually competent and caught him again.
Their buddies went up, went on the side road to catch him up ahead, and then as he was slowing down, the other ones were coming up behind him, and just as he's about to turn around anyways, one of them literally leaps out of the trees and kicks him off the horse.
Yeah.
All right. Bill.
Me already. So I'm thinking that the scene that I had been kind of leaning toward is the one that Matt took, I think. Because I was trying while watching to come up with a scene that I liked more than that one, and I don't think I successfully did. So I'm not sure. I don't think I actually have a second choice.
So you're passing.
I think so.
All right. So I had a choice of scenes.
Yeah.
One of which was the reveal after the Count rips off Hieronymus's mask. And
Oh,
you
that
just
was
see
actually a
the
good one too. Yeah.
gaping hole.
Not
Or
even
the
gaping
scene-
hole. It's just this glowing.
Yeah, the glowing ball and that was in his head.
Yeah. This
Or the scene
there.
where the culties die, and it turns out that the head cultist was taken the place of by the Doctor.
Mm-hmm. He was just tricking them to get dissolved.
But I think my favorite scene was right in episode 1, where
let go.
the culties are running off with Sarah, and the Doctor just comes out and goes, "Stop!" And one tries to deal with him, and he uses the Venusian Aikido, takes him down, advancing on the others to put down Sarah Jane, and the first guy just comes out and just knocks him over the head with a rock. It's just one of those. It's almost like lamp shading all the freaking John Pertwee scenes where that kind of stuff happened.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I actually do have another scene that I like.
Oh.
What's that?
The one where the Doctor is facing off against the Mandragora, and he gets knocked down, but he gets up again. Where they're going back and forth, and he keeps trying to take the Doctor out, and the Doctor is just quipping and all of that.
That could have been an opening bump. Taking that scene and putting it to Chumbawamba.
Thumping.
Yes. I get knocked down, but I get up again, and you're never going to get me down. Yeah.
That could have been something if we would have thought of that sooner.
I didn't think about it until Bill used those exact words.
I kind of didn't make the connection until I just now either.
Until as it was coming out of your mouth.
Right.
By the way, I'm surprised that nobody picked the elephant in the room.
Oh.
Okay.
The TARDIS walk.
You're saying the opening scene?
Yes.
Yeah, more TARDIS corridors. And I particularly hate this console room.
I will agree that I find this console room a little weird and underwhelming, but I like the fact that we're finally exploring the TARDIS and it actually looks like proper TARDIS hallways for a change, but okay.
Well, yeah, they get slowly better with the amount of TARDIS hallways. Well, actually, no, they get worse after this.
Actually, is this the first time we see corridors in the TARDIS?
It's not the first time, but it's the first time we saw them look like proper rondels like that.
It is not the first time we've seen TARDIS corridors, and it's not the first time it's been around.
I know we see them later, but
it was all that cardboard cutout background they used to use during the black and white era.
Yeah, it was the cheapo stuff, which is why I was particularly happy with this one because they didn't use the cheapo stuff.
Do you remember what that was?
No.
That was earlier Tom Baker, as far as I'm aware. That's all I can remember.
That was somewhere Hartnell.
Gotcha.
Oh, you're talking about really old hallways. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Because I think we might see like Susan have her own room at some point.
Yeah,
But we saw
it
the
might
girls
have
had
been.
their own room. We saw the guys had technically their own room, and then there's
Yeah.
like the little machine in the hallway and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it was. We saw a little bits and pieces of it during the Hartnell era, but yeah, usually the backup corridor walls was that cardboard stuff that they used for like whenever they didn't use they had like one wall of the console room, that cardboard stuff, and then anytime they needed additional
Well,
props,
my
they did.
problem during this, at least during the Tom Baker era, is that they were so cheap usually that they didn't even actually make hallways. They just found a location to film an empty hallway.
And they will, because a lot of that was during the Leela era.
That's right.
Like
That was
during
Leela
Invasion
era.
of
Yeah.
Time.
Mm.
It was
Um,
we didn't actually get to see more and more corridor until the Peter Davidson era, until Castrovalva.
Yeah.
I guess as far as that opening bit go, I think the only thing that I would have picked out from that specifically is just something that, like Matt mentioned earlier, where it was the whole bit of, I don't know why I like you humans so much. Oh, it's because you have good taste. Oh, I do.
That's two.
All right. So least favorite scene, Matt.
Least favorite scene. Oh, you know what? Actually, no, this one's easy for me. The Doctor decides to check out the crypt for himself for the first time. This is before he comes back up for the sword fight. He's down there. He manages to walk into the cult's central room again, and flat images project on the walls, and he has to do the whole hold in my head thing before he leaves again. What the hell was even going on in that scene? None of the images on the wall made any sense.
I assumed it was a psychic attack from the Helix, but
They explained it very poorly. They didn't even explain it very well when they first showed those images on the walls either, to be honest. But yeah, it's just that particular scene in particular is just like, what? And then they
Thomas?
just kind of passed it on and went.
Okay, Thomas.
God, I can't remember exactly which episode it happens in, but just one of the times in particular that they managed to kidnap Sarah Jane just felt so like, oh, really?
It
was
would
like
have had to have been the second time when she was running for the Doctor in the catacombs, and the cult just swarms her.
Yeah, because it's like, God damn it, you would think by now she'd be like, and just generally that Sarah Jane would be smarter than that to be like, I get why you don't want to wait, but also like, you don't know your way around here, so why would you be just running aimlessly?
Not to mention, you were literally dragged down here earlier by a group of cultists. You would think you would know, despite the panic, you might need to be a little bit quiet.
Yeah.
Bill?
So I'm going to go with the bit toward the end where it seems like the Doctor is going to give some sort of explanation why doing exactly what the cult wants ended up defeating them. And instead we get a cut so fast I get whiplash to the salami sandwich. I actually rewound it thinking I had missed like a chunk of the scene that I had spaced out or something, but no. It just went straight up from, yes, it's the Doctor. He says a couple of lines. None of them are really about how he did it. And then, boom, salami sandwich.
It's for me, Bill. It's very easy. He won his fight with the leader, which caused all the energy to drain out. And when they got the cultists to try and summon up that energy again, they were just robbed of the energy and instantly disintegrated. That easy.
Okay, I can get that. I still think from a visual aspect, like something about that cut, like threw me off.
I will say that the cut between being down there and immediately heading towards the TARDIS is a little bit jarring, but they were just trying to get it done.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if they filmed a longer scene and then they were like, you have 30 seconds to end the episode.
Might be.
Maybe.
Yeah, you could do that, but we want to show the Doctor with a salami sandwich, so no. But no, I mean the solution is because he basically put a ground wire around the base of the thing. The energy drained out into the ground.
Did we see that?
We saw him nailing the wires to the ground in earlier
We
scenes.
saw
Yeah.
we saw him
okay.
nailing the wires down in the earlier scenes before the fight. Then he got into that fight, and we didn't see what the outcome was.
Got you.
But
Okay, that's
but my
right.
assumption is that the outcome of that fight is exactly what happened to those cultists when they came back down.
Mhm.
But yes,
Just
we did
insta
see him
dust.
put down at least 2 ground wires. We suspect more like 4.
Anyway, I
And
think
then
I think he was just. We just saw him hiding 2 of the wires. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, so the power, instead of going into the people, was getting drained out the ground wires. All right, so my least favorite scene. Oh, I think I had a couple of them. Which one do I want to go with? Is the Duke, after being told specifically to wait there, fucking decides, fuck it, grabs his sword, and goes charging into battle to get captured exactly 5 seconds later. I mean, it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna do exactly what they want me to.
The only reason his ass got saved is because the cultists started to make their move, and the Doctor was able to sweet talk his way into getting the Count killed, more or less.
My other least favorite scene, and this one I think might hurt them more, is the attack at the Masque, where the cultists apparently kill all the guests. The same guests the Doctor said several scenes earlier that if they die would plunge the Earth into a second Dark Age.
Yeah, I'm thinking that all of the actual important guests actually still hadn't come out yet, is my theory on that, but
Yeah.
that's
Either
a theory.
Wait, did they kill them, or did they just round them up in a circle, or are we thinking different scenes?
No, we saw their bodies on the ground.
That's the other thing too, is that they were all perfectly their bodies on the ground, whereas I think previous targets were disintegrated, weren't they?
Because that was when the Doctor was pretending to be the cult leader, right? Or
Yes.
is that?
Yeah, he was still pretending to be the cult leader, so he let this all happen too.
Now, the other possibility is the Doctor might have drained so much energy from the cult during his fight with the leader that those electric shocks basically were just set to stun. But
that was how I interpreted it.
Yeah, that's basically my theory too.
Yeah.
Is that they didn't disintegrate; therefore they were at most maybe stunned. But again, they never really explain it. They never took the time.
No. So I think we're at final thoughts. Matt?
So final thoughts. I think there's a lot of really good ideas for this one. The story was pretty straightforward and well done. I don't have any problems with any of the sets. The acting was really good, even from the secondary cast. The visuals, I guess they were typical to me at least. It's 1970s British television. Nothing overly terrible, nothing overly great though either. Although there was a few good shots. There's a few things I would have tweaked up a little bit, maybe to help it along. Also, maybe a little bit of a rewrite on that last act there that we just seem to have a niche on.
And Matt, pass it on when you're done.
Oh, okay. Where was I? Oh, yeah, the main acting was really good, especially from Tom and Sarah. There was some good dialogue between the two of them periodically. Yeah, I was saying I was fine with the visuals for the most part. Yeah, I don't really have any major complaints, just a few scenes that are just like, huh? And then it moved on. So, I believe it's Thomas?
Yep. It was actually kind of funny watching this last week and realizing, oh my god, I have seen this before, but I forget if I'd seen the whole thing or just like bits and pieces, but I know that the cult stuff was like, okay, this is very familiar. So I just must have caught it when it was airing on the Australian equivalent of the Sci-Fi Channel. or something like years ago.
Maybe.
But yeah, I enjoyed this. There are like little bumps in the road here and there, but otherwise the acting's fine. It's a historical setting, so the sets are fine. I guess one other thing that I found particularly funny was the idea of the Doctor using the noisemaker to
Oh, that's right. I
both
forgot to bring that up, and I wanted to
spook
bring it up.
yeah, like spook the horses and the guards technically, because they're like, "What the fuck is this sound coming from?"
This pulls out this weird ass thing, like, what on earth?
He's like, I'm gonna scare the horse just enough to get the guy off of it, and then I'm jumping on the horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that bit, and I'm
Just a moment.
just like rooting for Arsenal.
Stuff.
Are you?
And I would generally say this is worth checking out.
All right. And you're done, Thomas?
Yep.
All right, Bill.
So this I think is an overall good episode. I think that the waveform is a very low amplitude, by which I mean that the worst parts of it are not really that bad, and the best parts of it are not really that great. It just kind of stays along a fairly good. As I mentioned, I'm not a huge fan of the visuals, but there's no visuals that I was like, oh man, that sucks. There were a few scenes that I like, but there were none that I was like, oh yeah, that's an awesome scene. But overall, I think it just kind of stays along in the area of being pretty good. It was engaging, well acted. It had, a pretty good plot that could be followed along. And of course, the great repartee between Sarah Jane and the Doctor. So overall, it was a pretty positive episode.
All right. I agree that overall this is a good episode. The acting is done well. The special effects for 1977?
Is it even that late?
Something like that.
Probably like I was thinking more 76, but okay.
No, last season would have been 76.
Okay.
Tom Baker took over in 75. His first season.
So September of 76.
Okay, so it's 76, 77 for this production season.
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, the special effects for BBC 1976, 77 is not bad. My only argument is the writing, and that is only in two places. It made a couple of references that they really should have checked their facts, and they really seem to rush the final act a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were running out of time. And actually, this probably could have been a 5-parter instead of a 4. And actually had, a proper conclusion. Maybe they only had enough for 4.5. But either way, it felt like they needed to pad that ending a little. But that is really the only complaint onto what I would say is a fairly decent episode. I had originally claimed that I couldn't watch this one without falling asleep. It turned out I had mitigating circumstances. So the first one taking place the day after Christmas, and the second one, I think I was distracted by other real life things. Anyway, shall we rate this?
Okie doke.
Matt, you are first on the ratings.
I'm going to give this one. I'm struggling, but I think I'll stay at a 4 for right now.
4 flat, 4 on the floor. All right, Thomas. Earth Thomas.
Unmute yourself, Thomas.
Muted? Or did you step away?
I forget why I forget what I muted myself for, probably because I was making noise that would be picked up on the mic. You know what? I will go with 4.5.
Oh.
5 from Thomas.
That
Bill.
was the other
I
direction I
would
was
say
leaning towards.
4.0.
0.0 from Bill.
Oh, I was expecting lower for Bill. Okay.
No, he said it was good. And I agree with Bill and Matt. I'm going to give this 4.0. Because it is good. It's not great. It's not epic in any way. Which will average us out to a 4.1, which will put us at number 149 out of 365 things reviewed. It is on par with Oxygen, The Daemons, The Pilot, The Space Museum, Can You Hear Me? It Takes You Away, Closing Time, The Girl Who Died, Fires of Pompeii, Death to the Daleks. Ironically enough, the other episode in which Sarah Jane tries to almost becomes a sacrifice. State of Decay, Under the Lake Before the Flood, Mummy on the Orient Express, Army of Ghosts, Doomsday. It is better than Spyfall, Rose, Planet of the Spiders, Light at the End, Castrovalva, Terminus, etc., and is not as good as Gridlock, The Time Meddler, Bad Wolf, Parting of the Ways, Legopolis, Inferno, The Mind Robber, etc. So there we go. 149 out of 365. That is all we have to say about the Masque of Mandragora.
All right. So if you're listening, don't forget to let us know in the comments. What do you think about this episode? What are your favorite parts? Don't forget to like or dislike the episode. And of course, subscribe to keep getting our YouTube exports, or follow us on Twitch to get our new podcasts every Wednesday night.
All right, next time we continue the Fourth Doctor serials we've yet to review. We say a fond farewell to Sarah Jane and a fond hello to Leela in Season 15's Horror of Fang Rock. Written by Terrence Dix and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor and Louise Jameson as Leela. See you next week.
Catch the wave.